to substance since you went to college. I think it's too late to acknowledge our problems. Heard that you're great, I just wanted to say it ain't change. I still love you, tomorrow's not promised. Oh, by the way, fucking hate all the fame. Got you counting the days when your illness is chronic. Death really changes the way you behave. I'll remember your face when it smiles upon us. Rapper bass, psych major, 666, so we like danger. Tough luck, life waster. If I get to know her, then I might save her. Stars in your eyes, let the moon talk. I can stay a while before I move on. Hoodie sleeves up, let the mask off. Make star tears on the asphalt. Damage in my C6, but you get that. So I know you'll understand where my blade at. You afflicted, where the meds at. Damn girl, let's make big bets at. Fuck them all, they don't got nothing on us. Trying to kill us, baby, think we're fucking on it. Fuck your fucking sickness, lost you in the process. I'ma get it for us like I always promised. Pull me back in with your fucking lies. Kill me slowly, baby, you know I don't fucking mind. You said a million years, guess the stars align. You've been lying, baby, see it in your fucking eyes. All up in your feelings, all about my vocal cords. I just think it's funny, there ain't shit you working towards. Rust up at the morgue, got my foot in the door. If you run up on the dead, get body by a corpse. Keep fucked for your money, get robbed for your life. Had a plight from the jump, succumb to the night. Got meds in my blood, got death in my mind. Ain't got shit left, best step to me right. No face, no name like Kidder. My bitch look just like Misa. In my restless dreams, I see her. Sent straight to the ether. Last thing you see is my creepers. I want blood, I don't get even. Corpse, bitch. I went to substance since you went to college. I think it's too late to acknowledge our problems. Heard that you're great, I just wanted to say it ain't change. I still love you, tomorrow's not promised. Oh, by the way, fucking hate all the fame. Got you counting the days when your illness is chronic. Death really changes the way you behave. I'll remember your face when it smiles upon us. Rapper bass, psych major, 666, so we like danger.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geeks and Noobs podcast. I am your host, Super Beard Vince Hoover, and I am joined by a very special guest today. We have Theory in the Lab. Tyler is here to join us today to have a very good discussion. For those of you not aware, Tyler is somebody that I actually found on TikTok. I saw his reviews, and he has been a refreshing light in the wave of the vocal minority of toxicity that is out there. Now, of course, if you are watching this on TikTok, on Twitch, on YouTube, you know what to do. On Twitch, hit that follow button. Please subscribe if you're feeling ever so generous. It's just $5 a month. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can use that, make Jeffrey Bezos pay for it, and stick it to the billionaires. If you're on TikTok, just hit the follow button. Appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And that. Tyler, how is it going?
It's going great, man. I really appreciate you having me, man. This is, believe it or not, actually my first podcast, so this is
Really?
a cool experience.
Well, that's awesome. Well, just so you know, the door is going to always be open for you whenever you want to come back on. That's always a thing. At TGN Networks, this is our flagship podcast, The Geeks and Noobs. We've been doing this for actually a year today.
Oh, no, so this is the anniversary episode.
I didn't even know that until I went and was looking at stuff, and it's like, hey, well, it's our affiliate anniversary. So this is when we became like a full-fledged, like legit podcast was today. I've actually been doing this for like 3 years, but like when we actually got to a point where like, oh, we can make money at this now, we can actually do something with this, and we started to grow. Today is literally our anniversary. So you are here on our anniversary show. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, for anybody, man, I'm honored even more, man.
I do greatly appreciate it. And actually, it couldn't have worked out better because unfortunately, my co-host, Kel McCosplay, messaged me about an hour ago, and he got food poisoning. Oh. So we were supposed to have 3 of us. My brother, who hosts with me on Wrestling with Toxicity on Tuesdays, where we talk wrestling, he was actually going to join us too, but he unfortunately couldn't make it either. But I was like, he wasn't 100% on being on board. But then Kel couldn't make it. I was like, oh no. Well, wait, Tyler's going to be here. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah,
Kel's a great guy. I would like if you to meet him now.
I did watch a couple of your guys' episodes, so I at
Awesome.
least saw him that.
Awesome. So before we dive into doing this, because today I want to talk about the Marvels and I want to talk about Loki season 2. Now that the strike is over, we can actually talk about this stuff again, and that's awesome.
Right.
It's been a very weird couple months for us. We've been doing like Reddit reactions and weird stuff. We
Yeah.
actually did a funny enough, a couple weeks ago, we actually like when they released a Five Nights at Freddy's movies the day early. We actually watched that with our fans because we was like, I don't know what else to do. Um,
Yeah, might as well.
yeah, so that was fun. But go ahead and tell people about a little bit about yourself, your geek background, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll roll right into it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I've grown up in everything geek related for a very long time. So, 26 years now, I've been pretty fully immersed in that. So, playing the original PlayStation as early as I can remember. So I try to generally talk about anything that interests me, and it all just happens to be very kind of nerdy related in general. So just a lot of movies, a lot of that being Marvel, reading a lot of Marvel comic books, and it was actually Deadpool that got me more into the comic side of everything. So that going down that road, reading a lot of those, educating myself as much as possible there. So just watching a lot of movies, playing a lot of video games, and then I started the TikTok channel as kind of a nice creative outlet for myself more than anything, and then I can just talk about stuff like this all day. So I also kind of did it so I feel like I wouldn't annoy my friends or my wife or anything like that. And I've encountered a lot of toxic people on there. So I was like, why do we have to just hate on everything that's coming out now? Like, there's plenty of positive stuff that we can find in a lot of this. And especially with this fandoms, like, let's talk about what we like, let's connect with each other, let's share theories, let's do stuff like that. So I try to do a lot of shutting out like all the negativity as much as possible and like try to just keep as much positivity, like realistically talk about things. Like, I don't want to just blindly love everything. And like, I feel constructive criticism is still very important. So I try to do that in the best way possible. And really, I mean, the Marvels movie is a perfect example of exactly what all this
Yeah.
is.
Daniel Cruz over on TikTok. Thank you for the follow. Also, make sure you go follow Theory in the Lab. Go hit up his TikTok as well, please.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So you're up to over you're nearing like 7,500 followers now on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're doing pretty
Yeah.
well there. And like you mentioned, Deadpool as kind of a kicking off point. I noticed that around your age, I'm 41, a
Mhm.
little bit older. But I've noticed that like around your age, Deadpool was a good comic that a lot of people kicked off on because it was that kind of fun, quirky, and it fit the time. Like it was
Yeah.
very much like some of the comics that I grew up on, like classic X-Men and classic Superman and stuff from like the 80s and early 90s, doesn't like those are dated. They're like especially the 90s stuff. Like the 90s period of comics is very dated. Like more so than I
Right.
would say even like the golden age. Like yes, the golden age is its own thing, but that was still a good 20 to 30 year chunk. The 90s is a decade that really stands on its own. And so Deadpool I think was a
Yeah.
good leaping off point for a lot of people right around your age to kind of bring it into modern comics because it was that shift in comics.
Definitely. Yeah, and from what I remembered of it, because obviously a lot of the MCU stuff was already going at the time. Like we had already gotten the first Avengers and everything like that. So, like a lot of the interest, especially for my generation, was definitely there. And I was aware of all of the comic book history getting into it, but especially being a younger kid, it's like I don't know how to access a lot of this, and it seems like there's such this rich history there already. Like I have no idea where to jump into it. And around that time, this is like even when production of the first Deadpool movie was starting. So obviously, Ryan Reynolds is a huge star, and there was like that leaked test footage that they put out to try to get the movie greenlit.
I
So it was a
wonder
big
who
thing on
leaked
the
it.
internet. Oh yeah, who could it be?
Who
You
could
even
it have
had
been?
Ryan voicing it on on that
Yeah.
point already. Even so, I was like, all right, Deadpool seems great. And then I even remember going to Half Price Books and like picking up just one of the trade backs just to like find a jumping point. And Deadpool was great because, like you said, it is relevant at the time, and it didn't require a lot of this background knowledge or wealth of history or knowledge or anything like that to get into it. You could just jump into a Deadpool comic book and really enjoy it. So it really helped transition all of that in there because, especially if you're doing like the big storylines, if you're jumping into like Civil War or Age of Ultron or Secret Invasion, it always feels like you're in the middle of it, and like there's always stuff that came before it that they even reference in there. So it's like you just kind of have to catch up a little bit and then be a part of it and just enjoy the storyline and kind of just pick up on stuff from context clues. And Deadpool didn't really have that. It's been a great entry point.
Yeah, and that's I think it was also something that was different, it was unique, and it was very funny, and I think that kind of helps a lot of people get
Yeah.
into it too. Because I mean, I know a lot of people that Deadpool, whether it be the comics or the movie or both, that's like their kind of kickoff point, and then from there they expand their universe and knowledge and stuff. And yes, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's 80 plus years of comic book history.
Oh yeah.
And as much as I've read, I don't even know half of it. And I know a lot more than most. But it's a lot to take in. And and I think it's one of the things that I appreciate most about the MCU and even to some extent the DCEU is that those
Mhm.
even though like the DCEU was not as well received and a lot of that is not great,
It's not
there
perfect.
it no, that's definitely not a word I would use around that. Um, it what it did was it whet the appetite. You know what I mean?
Right.
It whet the
Yeah.
appetite of people, and they've gone out and now they go and do comics. I remember I was at New York Comic Con 2019, my first time ever in New York. I was super excited. My cousin Jeff's in the crowd. I was staying with him in Long Island, and I went to Midtown Comics and I talked to the one of the head managers there for a while. And yeah, he's like comic books are still kind of a medium that aren't excelling sales wise, but at the same
Right.
time, there's been a big boom thanks to the movies. And luckily, not just for Marvel and DC, but indie comics as well. And I think we could probably
Yeah.
attribute some of that to like The Boys on Amazon and stuff like that. Some of these kind of side projects that have come out that have also helped.
Yeah, I know a lot of people personally that have even gotten into Invincible just because that really burst out on the scene even just with one season, and people have fully jumped into that. And again, I feel like it's more of an easier access point. Like it doesn't have this lush history, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's the tide raising all ships.
Yes. I saw somebody else mention that. Oh, it was about wrestling, but yes, I saw somebody else mention that earlier today. And there's a lot of correlation between fandoms. I think every fandom, really. We talked
Oh yeah,
about
there's
this
there's
kind of
bleed into all of them.
yeah, we did an AMA last night. I normally do on Wednesdays. I do the Geeky Kitchen where I take geeky cookbooks and then I make recipes because I'm also a chef. So it's something I do for fun.
Nice.
But something happened last night. I wasn't able to do it, so we did an AMA last night instead, and that came up quite a bit too. But um, Jeff says I feel like Loki did the same thing for the Marvel series as well. Yeah, I absolutely. I think Loki. I think
Yeah.
there, and we'll dive more into this as we get into both the series and the movie. There's been a lot of criticism lately, and the word superhero fatigue is getting thrown out a lot. But I
Yeah.
think the reality of it is, and this is something I think that you even brought up somewhat. You were talking about the Marvel's box office numbers
Mhm.
in your video, which everybody again, please go check out his TikTok. Um, there there was no promotion for the movie
No.
because of the strike. Well, the same can be said about the release schedule we've gotten because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And everybody complained that we had a year between Infinity War and Endgame. Like there were change.org campaigns to release the movie early. There were people like threatening Marvel with very funny videos. Like they were very funny, but there was
Oh
also
yeah.
people that were taking it very seriously about you need to get this out there. We need to have this stuff. We cannot wait this long, blah blah blah. And then Marvel's
Black
like,
Widow especially, people were freaking
"Oh
out about
yeah,
that for a long time even.
absolutely." And then we have a pandemic that unfortunately shuts us down for 18 months. And then we start to get stuff and then people bitch because we're getting too much of it. It's like they're trying to not push everything back to almost 2030.
Yeah, like we had a whole backlog to pull from now, so like let's just push it out a little bit so we can keep a steady pace
Yeah.
going.
So instead of
And
it being like WandaVision comes out and then we have like 4 months until the next show comes out, they were releasing them kind of back to back because they were trying to catch up to their. They
And
didn't
even
want to push
the
anything
order
back.
got jumbled.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, it was supposed to be Falcon Winter
yeah.
Soldier first, and then, I believe, WandaVision maybe even after Loki, and then that got pushed up to the which I think benefited it. I think WandaVision really kicking off that phase, like, really set a certain tone that hooked a lot of people for a long time.
I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree that the way it came out, I think, was far more beneficial. Because nothing. I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I don't know if that being the kickoff would have actually benefited them.
No, I really love that as well, and, even Winter Soldier was probably the movie that, like, locked me in as a lifer for the MCU, so those guys especially, like, have hold a special spot for me, but I do really enjoy that level of the MCU storytelling, but even that definitely wasn't a perfect project, and I feel like watching it, you can tell what got chopped up due to different circumstances, whether it be COVID related, because there was that theory that there was a whole underlying story that there was a pandemic in there, so they had to scrap that. Then I still have my own tinfoil theories that Black Panther was going to be in there with the Dora Milaje, but then there was the tragic passing of Chadwick as well, and I feel like that even had an effect on it. So, as fun as it was, there was definitely another version in an alternate universe that is out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yes, there was. I was writing for Screen Geek at the time, and there
Mhm.
very much was a pandemic storyline. It wasn't going like that was what the I forgot the name of the terrorist group now, but the group that
Flag Smashers.
thank you, Flag Smashers. There's too many things to remember, and I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Um, the Flag Smashers were going to use basically it was going to be biological warfare and create a pandemic to
Mhm.
try and wipe out the people who came, to people who took their places because they were brought back and their lives were erased because they were gone for 5 years. And
Mhm.
so that was the original plan, and then we actually have a pandemic and we lose over 1,000,000 people, and it's like, "Oh, let's not do that. That's
Probably
not
shouldn't touch
in
on
good
this.
taste at all."
Yeah.
Um, we didn't
Which I'm
think
glad
we
they did.
it's one of those things you gotta be in that writer's room going, "Dude, we're fantasy writers. We didn't think this was something that could happen."
I
Like, how weird would
well,
that be?
I feel like Sam Wilson's cap is cursed at this point, and not for his fault, but there was that, and then now the new Captain America movie is getting chopped up because apparently there was storylines with Israel and everything, or they were going to introduce an Israeli superhero, and it's like, well, now these other world circumstances happen that we probably shouldn't touch on this either. So, how do you have two? What are the chances that you are one of those writers and you have two projects in a row that this keeps happening?
Yeah, it would be like, "We're suddenly The Simpsons. How did we do
Yeah.
this?" Yeah, The Simpsons have been doing that for decades. Yeah, it's exactly like, I was literally on that same thought train. It's like, "We're the new Simpsons, but for the worst things ever.
Oh, yeah,
Crap."
and we don't have the benefit of being able to put it out first.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, because and The Simpsons will have done it, like, sometimes a decade ahead, and it's just like,
Yeah,
"How did you guess that?" Well, I mean, in the eyes of the animators and the writers, we're gonna say the most outlandish stuff, and then the world just becomes outlandish. That's just how it's happened. Unfortunately for
yeah,
Marvel, it's happening way faster and before
yeah,
they could get it released. So it's just like, "Crap." And again, for the worst things ever. It's just like, "Holy crap." And, so
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's all these things, and then we're in this world of Jason. By the way, Jason Hiroki, yes, Loki was elite, and we will get into that. We're just kind of going over stuff right now.
Oh, yeah,
When we talk about toxicity, there's a whole like world of like rage baiting, clickbait TikTokers, and the fact that
yeah,
Variety of all magazines puts out a hit piece on Marvel, which is debunked within 2 days. By the way, every
very
point
quickly.
that was made in it was debunked, and then the other points that they didn't debunk because they weren't something to be debunked. They weren't bad things. Marvel
No.
reassessing their TV goals to more align with what fans want. That's not a bad like, that's what you want a company to do. That's not a bad
Yeah.
thing.
Well, it's this interesting perspective because we're just now seeing, like, how the sausage gets made. Like we shouldn't have this much insight into their process. Like the Blade thing's a perfect example. And it's like, oh, there was a story or like a version of the script where he was like the fourth lead character. He wasn't even the main character, and it was a team of women above him. And it's like, yeah, it was a bad idea that got scrapped and didn't make it into the movie. So why
Well,
are we being mad about that?
actually, the writer of the script that was scrapped said that was never even a thing. That's one of the things that got debunked. He's like,
Yep.
I was the last writer before the current writer, and I've seen every version of the script, and that
Yep.
wasn't in any of them. He's like, I don't know what
And I
they're
love
talking
that he
about.
came out
I
and
don't
said
know.
that.
Yeah, he was immediate. Like he was the first one to come out and say, "Hey, no, this is crap." And he didn't have anything. He didn't have to do that because technically he was
No.
fired. He could have been butthurt over the whole situation and been like, "Yeah, they made me write that. I didn't want to write that, but they made me." He could have done that,
Very professional.
but he was like, "No, that's not what happened at all." Yeah, Bo, very good friend of the channel. Variety is now just like a tabloid, and yeah, and that's
Yeah.
sad because like again, when I wrote with Screen Geek, I always would tell everybody, unless it comes from the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, or Variety, don't believe it until the studios say so.
Mhm.
Those three sources, if they say something, put some weight behind it. I can't say that anymore. Not for any of them. Not even the Hollywood Reporter, not even Deadline. Like Deadline's reporting now that Pedro Pascal is reportedly in talks, but that has gotten so twisted to everybody. Deadline confirms Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. They
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
confirm it, but they're also not out there. Hey, no, no, no. We didn't. They're just letting it go because it's still driving. All they care about is the traffic driven to their thing. So they're like, we're not going to stop them from misquoting us because it's driving traffic to us. That's just as
Yeah.
bad as saying bad stuff is by accepting bad stuff said. The false information said about you.
Yeah, they're not correcting any of it, and, yeah, I remember, like, just scrolling Twitter or X or whatever it is now last night and, like, watching all of that happen in real time, and, like, the first couple tweets that were popping up is, "Pedro Pascal confirmed Reed Richards," and then, like, more reliable people were coming on there that are accurate a lot of the time, and they're like, "No, no, 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 that's not what it's saying. He's in talks. Nothing's confirmed. There's no actual deal signed." And it's like, "Alright, you're just cherry picking everything from what you're kind of seeing in here and just throwing that up just so you get the clicks."
And my favorite, Bo saw something that said he was cast because Feige said the cast was too white. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
I don't believe
And here's the
that.
thing too. Here's the thing that I think even Deadline in their Pedro Pascal in talks, I think they are conflating what they've heard to make it sound better.
Well, Pedro's a big name, that'll get clicks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what it is that he is a list of people. He's on a list of people that they want to talk to. Pedro
Mhm.
Pascal has Gladiator 2, he has Last of Us 2, he has a couple other projects he's already signed on. I don't if like how would he even fit into Fantastic Four? So it's just
Right,
like
yeah, and that's
I
it
don't
comes
get me
down to
wrong,
when
would love
that's
it, but
actually going to be filming, because who knows at this point with how Marvel's, switching their schedule around, and I believe Gladiator 2 might have already started filming,
it's
or
mostly done. Like there's already a I think there was already a trailer for it, or there's going to be a trailer coming out, but I know that they're not done filming. And of course,
yeah, they couldn't quite wrap it up before the strikes, and, I mean, depends how they spin it with Last of Us 2, but I don't think that's gonna take up too much of his schedule.
well, the only thing about that is that HBO or Max or whatever it is now, they do like to shoot episodically. They don't shoot
Mhm.
the whole thing and then turn it into episodes. They do shoot it kind of episodically.
Yeah.
Like The Last of Us, the first season was a longer shoot than most movie shoots for him. It was very
Mhm.
interesting the way they did it. So I don't know if they're going to do that again or they're going to be like, hey, maybe we should do it a little bit better. Um, but that's like it's crazy, like how people will just lose their minds over the slightest thing. And then like I said, we've got a like other sources that I used to like be like I go to this source. Like Variant Comics on YouTube used to be like I used to send people there. Hey, you want to learn about somebody? Go to Variant Comics on YouTube. But now
Yep.
their host, Arias Kionis, is on TikTok and has become a rage baiter. And it's like he's become this like misogynistic incel style rage baiter for
Yeah.
internet fame, I guess, even though he already was doing quite well on Variant. Like I don't understand what it but it's just like and I feel like, oh, so on Variant we get to see the character version of you so that you can play clean for the corporate. And then on TikTok we get to see the real you and that sucks.
Right. Yeah.
And
Are you
that's
just playing both sides to rake in as much money as possible, or like which one's the real you?
yeah, it's just it's so bad. And then like the fact that and this will lead into our we'll start with the Marvels. So this will lead into the Marvels
Yeah.
here. His video was that the Marvels is the worst thing the MCU has ever created. And my thought is, did you even see the movie?
Yeah.
Because it is so much fun.
It's such a fun ride. It's a great time all the way through, and it's a great family fun movie that you don't really need as much background knowledge as what a lot of people assumed. You can just go to the theater and thoroughly enjoy this movie. There's nothing wrong with it.
No, and I think like the only real homework you really needed, homework would have been maybe Miss Marvel, just so you know more
Yeah.
about her and her family. But that's also a lot of fun. That's not homework. That's an enjoyable. If you go into that just to see who they are and enjoy, that was such a fun show. It was so delightful, and yes, I may not technically be the target audience of it. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it thoroughly. I had a blast with Miss Marvel. So
It
much
it was
fun.
great because even though that us as 2 white men are definitely not the target audience for that, just because we're fans of it and, like, walked into it with an open mind, there was a lot that we got to learn of a different culture and even history. Like, the apartheid, I didn't know very much about at all, and I had way more exposure to it just because of that show.
And yeah, and I felt the emotion, even though it again, it's not something that was I was affected by, not even anybody in my family affected by. I felt the emotional weight of that because again, it was well
Yeah.
done. And again, most of that it's just it's very fun, but it was also very emotional. And every character was somebody you fell in love with, and I was so happy to see her family back in this film. Um, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick because I would have had Kel do this, but he's not here, so I'm gonna have you do it. Give a quick synopsis of the film. What is the film about? And by the way, real quick before we even get
Yeah.
started, for everybody in the audience, I purposely waited to do this till this Thursday. Spoilers. There will be spoilers. We're gonna go ahead and go to spoilers for both the Marvels and Loki season 2. So that put that out there right away. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Okay, and go.
Oh yeah, we've had some time. Let's get into it. So if you didn't see Miss Marvel, the post-credit scene of that show at the very last episode is her amulet lighting up and then switching spots, and all of a sudden we see Captain Marvel crash through her bedroom. The movie essentially picks up immediately after there, but we're also introduced into Photon, Monica Rambeau from the WandaVision TV show, which that the movie does a great quick exposition to kind of fill in her backstory as well. But she's now working with they went with Saber instead of Sword,
Saber.
with Nick Fury up in space. They're investigating portals through space that you'd recognize from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. There's some sort of anomaly because one of the first scenes that we see is the villain Dar-Benn, who's Kree, who finds another amulet on a moon exactly like Kamala's. And what she's doing is ripping open other portals like this so she can help her homeworld, the homeworld of Kree, because that has fallen into civil war and disarray from that point. So now these jump points are becoming unstable. They Captain Marvel and Monica both happen to touch one at the same time. And now, since all three of these characters have light based powers, they're all switching spots with each other as soon as they use the power. So now we're switching between the Saber base and we're also switching between Kamala's house back home on Earth. And by the way, Nia DaCosta's camera work on these action scenes that pop up when they're first switching, phenomenal. Like I even watched Candyman in preps to watch that. She did not disappoint. So now that they are all together, they start talking with each other, realize that the villain Dar-Benn is out there. They try to tap into each other's minds so they can figure out the plan of this new villain here. Then they do more quick backstory. There's more emotional connection there, and then They do normal Marvel stuff, go on this big adventure to help save the day. They all grow as people. They have a great time together until the final fight scene. Towards the end of it, they have really learned and perfected how to use their powers and switch spots between them. The villain meets her untimely demise, but now there are this huge jump point that ripped open after the two amulets came into contact with each other. So now the three heroes have to use their powers to their fullest extent to now go close this gap in space. And in the process of that, we lose Monica. From that point, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, go back down to the house she inherited from Maria Rambeau down in Louisiana. So now they have a house together. They're hanging out. And then after that, we see the final scene of the movie, which is Miss Marvel recruiting Kate Bishop and even vaguely referencing Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie Lang. And then credits roll, and then mid-credit scene pops up.
Well, let's
We
not talk about the
see
mid credit. Let's not do the mid credit scene just yet. That's something I
right.
want to. We'll dive into that. Um, That's something that just kind of popped in my mind. You mentioned the house in Louisiana, and this is kind of an offshoot kind of thing.
Mhm.
You know what's interesting about that?
Are you thinking of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yes, I
That's
was getting ready to
exactly
say,
where my head went as soon as they flashed Louisiana.
yeah, like where did they end up? Which, by the way, it's actually the same house that we see. And I think it's just because I think either Marvel owns a house or it's a house that gets shot at a lot. It's the same
Mhm.
house that they shot not only the first Captain Marvel movie, but it's also the one they shot the Falcon when he's training with the Shield.
Oh yeah,
They purposely didn't show the house very much. Like they showed the porch, but not much of the house because it's the exact
yeah,
same house. But if you notice, the trees are there. It's the same house, but they purposely didn't show the house very much in Falcon and Winter Soldier. For I think because like, oh, we don't want it to. Oh, he's at the Rambeau's house.
right.
But the fact that they're in Louisiana where Sam Wilson's family is and where he's spending quite a bit of time, and I think Bucky might have stuck around because they were teasing that him and Sam's sister were kind of flirty.
We're kind of a thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they were kind of teasing that. So, and he was like, he's like, I'm backing away for a bit. So he might have stuck around too. So it's interesting that Louisiana is becoming something of almost a secret
A hub,
hotbed. Yeah, it's interesting, and that
just
just kind
like
of
New
popped up when you
York
said
is.
that. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah, yeah. As soon as I saw Louisiana, I was like, "Yo, Sam's got a boat down there."
yeah. And I guess that house is a fairly famous house. I saw somebody during Falcon or during when Captain Marvel had come out now so many years ago. Um, that they had talked about that house in other movies and stuff. So I guess it's a house that
Mhm.
gets shot in a lot. But yeah, it's uh interesting that they shot at the same place and that they're roughly in the same area. So that's interesting.
Right.
The more again overall, I absolutely love the movie. I the charisma and dynamic between the three leads was phenomenal.
Yeah,
Like,
the chemistry worked so well, and even though like they're going through a space adventure, like even just how they interacted with each other and reacted to things going on around, it felt very human and very natural. Like these people had a great time together, and they were able to feed off of each other really well.
yeah, Iman Kalani is arguably the greatest casting choice of all time.
Yeah.
Like, here's somebody who's never like Robert Downey Jr. Obviously Iron Man, Tony Stark 1,000%, of course, but he's
Hmm.
also a famous actor who knows what he's doing. Chris Evans, Captain America. People didn't see it, like, oh, I don't know about that, and then we find out, oh, no, he is Captain America. There is
Yeah.
nobody else who could be Steve Rogers. But again, famous actor, tons of range. We know what he's capable of doing.
A lot of history. Was a superhero before that even.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Iman Kalani, who has never acted before. Her audition was done over Zoom because hello pandemic,
Yeah.
and she embodies that character so well. She is a natural on screen. Like, I never felt like she was out of place next to Academy Award winner Brie Larson,
Yeah.
highest grossing movie actor of all time Samuel L. Jackson. Like, she never felt out of place. Like, she felt like she belonged. She felt like she's been doing this for decades, and she's not even decades old.
Yeah,
She's
not
not
at
even
all.
20 yet. And she's so good. And like I know part of it is because she gets to play a fangirl and she is a fangirl. But it's still like her acting chops are there. Like the emotional scenes, like in the very beginning when that first excuse me, scroll home the scroll world gets attacked and she has to literally let people she has to make Captain Marvel we have to if we don't let them
Yeah.
die, everybody dies. And she nails that. That's
She has a
incredible.
very visceral reaction of like these are lives that are being lost, and she's reflecting that at the same time of like, oh, this isn't quite what I pictured my hero to be.
Yeah, she thought she could save everyone, and now she's faced with the real life choice that real heroes have to make. Is
Mhm.
that at some time you have to like, do I try and save them at the cost of literally everybody's lives, or do I, for lack of a better term, not to sound cold, but cut my losses and save who I can?
Right. Yeah,
And that's
it's you gotta save who you can without losing everybody.
yeah, and that was obviously a huge moment for her character and everything. And also, like as you mentioned, Photon, but we don't actually have a name for her yet. I feel like maybe after, and not diving into that post credit scene just yet, but she might go with Binary.
I could see that now. Yeah.
Yeah, after, and we'll dive a little bit deeper in that scene because that scene I think also ties into Deadpool 3.
It
Um,
would it would surprise me if it doesn't at this point now.
yeah, but like I love the film. Again, it's very fun. It's just an enjoyable movie experience. I saw some people say it's a filler film, but I saw somebody else mention. And I wish I could remember who it is. I think it was Marvelous Johnny. I think is who it is on TikTok. It's okay to be a filler film. Not every film has to be this epic, deep lore thing. They can just be fun side almost like a side quest to this main story. The
Yeah,
first
yeah,
Ant Man.
exactly. It wouldn't really put me in the mind of it, like it reminded me of Phase 2 or 3. Like it felt like a movie it could fit in there because a lot of what those movies were, it was its own self-contained thing. The world or universe wasn't ending in every one of these movies. Like we spent time with these characters and there were stakes that were really scaled to that story. So we got this nice self-contained story, but there was threads and small baby steps to push the whole MCU forward in general. So that's what it really put me in the mind of and felt like we kind of recaptured a lot of that feeling of Phase 2 and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you think about it, like Guardians of the Galaxy, both one and two, while had stuff that tied them into the larger universe, were self-contained stories. The first Doctor Strange, self-contained stories with sprinkles of the outside universe. The first Ant Man.
Right.
All these movies, even Captain Marvel, the first one, is a kind of self-contained story that sprinkles into the greater lore of the MCU. And that's what this movie was. It was a self-contained
Mhm.
story that was just a lot of fun. Uh, I've seen a lot of people bitch about the singing and dancing planet. I thought that was great. I
It was
loved
fun.
it.
And I felt like it served an extra purpose. That Jamie on Phase Zero, the another Marvel podcast, did a good job of pointing out that dancing scene and like that whole music planet felt very Bollywood. So it felt like it tied even more to Kamala, and that's why she was so into it and was dancing along with it. So like having that extra layer to it really took it to the next level for me.
What I also find funny is that the people that are like, that's the one scene that everybody wants to say, like, oh, when you see it, you'll know when it's a terrible scene. It's the worst scene in cinema. Blah blah blah.
The Disneyfied the
Yeah,
MCU.
those are the same people that are going to be waiting in line to see the Joker 2, which is a musical.
Yeah, have fun. That'll be a rude awakening for you.
Yeah. Oh, but they're going to say it's the greatest piece of cinema to ever happen
Yeah.
because it's an incel movie. Like, I mean, let's be real. I think it's going to
Mhm.
be like it's unless they really do focus more on Harley than the Joker in the film, which I don't think they are. It's really gonna be one of those films like, oh, this is so great. You know, he look at this psychotic killer. So it's like, first off, he's not the Joker. But
Yeah.
thank you for the subscription over. I believe that's on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. Um, but yeah, like the first Joker film to me is actually a fantastic film. I think it's an incredible piece of cinema.
Great movie, yeah.
It's not a superhero movie. It's not a comic book movie. If you took
No.
out if you took out the name of the city as Gotham and you took out the references to the Waynes, it's not a Joker movie at all. It's not a comic book movie at all. And I think the movie is 1,000
No.
times better if you took that stuff out. Because there's expectations that come with a comic book movie, and that just wasn't it. And then you have Todd Phillips say, one, we're not doing anything comic book related. This is my own version of the character. And then when the movie comes out, oh well, he may not even be the Joker. He may be what inspires him later. And like this whole like the backpedaling on it because that is just like it's again fantastic film. Phoenix
Yeah.
kills it. De Niro kills it. Uh, uh, Beats kills it. But it's not a comic book film. It's not the Joker. And
No.
I think the sequel is going to do the same thing. It'll be a phenomenal film, and I happen to love musicals, so I'm excited about that portion of it.
Same.
But it's not going to be a comic book movie, but it's going to be one of those movies. Oh, this is what the Marvel should have been. No, no.
That's not what they were going for. And that's the other thing that kind of drives me crazy about people complaining about the whole thing of it's not trying to be an Oscar-worthy movie. It's not trying to be super groundbreaking, reinvent the wheel or anything like that. And it's a small ensemble movie, but we're not to the point where we've earned another in game. So, like, what were your expectations to be mad at this movie? Like, it was going to be a fun ride with a group of friends through space, and that's what we got.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I just there the only my only criticism of the film really is that one I kind of wish it was a little bit longer, but that's just a personal preference. That's not really a critique.
I even go back and forth on that one.
Yeah, because I think this like it told the story, so it's not like we were really missing stuff. But
And it kept the pace going, which was nice. So, like, even, like, the flaw, because like, the villain's pretty thin, but, like, even the flaws that the movie does have, you don't have to worry or dwell on them because it keeps you going, and it's important to have, like, a very rewatchable movie in Marvel as well, and this one is very rewatchable. Not a lot of them are because they're 2.5 hours to 3 hours, so you can't always just throw it on easily. This is one that you can, and I think does add to its value.
yeah, and I think that my only real critique of the film is the villain. But
Mhm.
as I kind of mentioned it yesterday, the villains. I mean, that's just Marvel has a really bad history of villains. Let's be
Yeah,
real. Like
yeah.
a lot of them are one dimensional. There's a reason they killed him off at the end of most films. And I don't think she was the worst. I understood her reasoning. I understood her thought process. I wouldn't say she was one dimensional, but she wasn't three-dimensional either.
No.
Um, and that's the, I guess, critique. But she's also not the focus of the film. The focus is those three and their relationship.
Yeah, yeah. If anything, the villain here was a bit more of a plot device, just to kind of keep things moving, and then give them a common goal. And Zawe Ashton did great in her performance. Like, she was
Yeah,
acting her ass off anytime that she did pop up. So it's not to her fault of her own either. And even just the concept, like, I feel like they're playing a bit behind. Like, you made a good point. Her reasons for what she was doing made sense, but it was to save the Kree planet, which we've already pretty well established the Kree as villains. So, like, there's already a certain level that you're not going to care about them as much. So I feel like they were playing from behind a little bit. The thing I did like, because what Marvel can do with their villains in the past is really pull from other villains. It's like, oh, we don't quite want to do that storyline, so we're going to take this aspect of this character and throw it into this villain. And Dar-Benn only has like 2 comic book issues, so what they
yeah,
were able to do and still make her own thing out of just 2 comic books was still really impressive.
yeah. And as you said, she was more of a plot device than a central villain. I did like seeing the Supreme Intelligence in that form when Carol went to destroy it, I
Very
thought that
comic
was
accurate.
that was very cool. Um,
I was so glad that they threw that shot in, and Naya is a huge comic book fan, so, like, you can tell that was all her, and there's a lot of comic book influence that gets thrown into this movie just because she's got a deep love of it.
yeah. All in all, I had tons of fun with it. I've seen it twice
Oh, yeah.
now. I'll see it again when it's on Disney Plus. It'll be one of those films when I'm kind of like, oh, what do I? It'll probably be one I throw on because it's just
Mhm.
fun. It's
Oh, my
just fun.
three-year-old's gonna love it.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. Um, so all in all, great film. Let's go ahead and dive into that mid credit scene now,
Mhm.
because that is where it really kind of like, whoa. So
My jaw dropped a bit on that one, yeah.
yeah, like Monica Rambeau goes through the rift to close it. She has now jumped to a different reality, a different universe. She wakes up and her mother's there. Except this woman has no idea who she is.
None.
And this is not the 838 that we saw in Multiverse of Madness either. This is a different universe altogether. As it turns out, it's the Fox universe because one, we hear the X-Men 2 theme,
Mhm.
and then we see Kelsey Grammer's Beast, but a far more comic accurate version of him. He's
Right.
got
So, even that point, I even go back and forth of, is this the Fox universe?
I think it
It
might, if it's not the Fox universe, it's a variation of it.
yeah, it's a tangent,
Because
which
don't forget,
we could
we even know there they have multiple universes because Days of Future Past creates different
exactly.
universes. So we know they of themselves have their own splinters. So it's a variant. I'll use the term from Loki, which we'll get into shortly. But we get a Kelsey Grammer that's insanely comic accurate.
Love
To
that.
and more specifically, he looks like the animated series version.
Yeah.
He's got the underbite. He's very broad. He's also wearing the
The hair,
the if you look at his tights, so he's got the lab coat on, but he's
the
got
brown and
the
yellow pants.
brown and yellow pants. And that was super cool. And then Maria Rambeau steps back and she's got a red and white suit and she is binary. And then as it zooms out of the medical room they're in, you see the X door that we know from the
Yep.
Fox universe. And then they say they have to go talk to Charles. Now, this is what I said. It's not 838 because Charles is dead in that universe.
Mhm.
Um,
And Maria was Captain Marvel in that one,
yeah,
not binary, and
not
she
not
also died,
binary. Yeah, and she also died.
which I'm glad they
So
went with binary because that's more closer related to X-Men out of anything from Captain
yes,
Marvel's storyline.
exactly, exactly. That was all part of the and it was actually part of a Kree storyline in X Men 2. So it all ties in together. And I think that is the Deadpool universe that she is in.
Yeah.
And this will lead to, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You know, Deadpool's already teased like James McAvoy and the X Men First Class and Days of Future Past people, like the younger X Men. He's already teased that universe, but now he can because again, it's like a slight variant. And even in his own film at the end of Deadpool 2, he's jumping through time and changing things, which would
Yeah.
create obviously rifts in time and create, branches. So it'll be very interesting to see how this ties into Deadpool, which is the next film coming out, isn't it?
Yeah. Only one of next year.
And it's July?
July 24th or 26th. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
right
more
right
in
near I know
summer.
it's right near my birthday. And
Hell of a gift.
yeah, I know. Well, Marvels was supposed to come out on my birthday this year, July 29th, and then it got pushed back. But that's fine.
Yeah.
I will take Deadpool 3, of course. And then the only other Marvel project we're getting is not even it's a Marvel adjacent project, and Sony's Venom 3 is supposed to be coming out.
Well, we got 3 Sony projects because we have Madam Web, Venom 3, and Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, there's no release date yet for Madam Web. I don't know what's going on with Craven the Hunter, but that's because they couldn't talk about it. Um, hopefully we'll
Yeah,
see
that was a good
something.
call.
And yeah, I mean, I guess before we talk about Loki, we should probably talk about the Madam Web trailer and the What If trailer, because those were both released. So the next project we're getting from Marvel is in December, is What If season 2, and they're going to release that 9 days in a row. And
I
I've
like
seen some,
that.
and again, I've seen exactly that should have been your first reaction. I've seen some people say, "Oh, Marvel doesn't care about this show. That's why they're not going to release it weekly." I'm like, all y'all were the same people that bitched about shows being released weekly, and you didn't want that.
Yeah.
Now they're listening to you, and they're going to release them daily as a Christmas gift, mind you, because it starts December 22nd and goes for 9 days. So it's a Christmas gift for you and a New Year's gift for you, and
So
yet you
most of
want
you
to,
are on vacation already.
yeah, that's their exact thought. Everybody, instead of making them wait weeks to get through the show, go at it like and I do, it's smart. It's really
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, a 20, 30-minute kind of special one-off episode, I think they realized isn't enough to carry through an entire week. Like they're going to talk about it one day, maybe 2 days, and then you're just going to wait around until next week. So the fact that we can keep this up for 9 days and keep talking about it, and it's probably going to tie together just at how it did the same way at the end of the first season. Even when I watched the first season, I was like, yeah, like this is cool. We get something a little extra that's like a fun thought and idea, but I was pretty about it by the end of it. But the trailer that they dropped for season 2 went unbelievably hard for something of a project like this. So I am enormously more excited than I was before.
My biggest thing about it, my biggest thing about it, we're getting more Shang-Chi.
Yes.
There's going to be a whole episode in his world, and I'm
Well,
so excited.
we're getting more 10 rings. I don't think it's going to be Shang-Chi, though. I think it's going to be Win Wu.
Well, from what I understand, there's one clip where you see Shang-Chi and somebody else fighting, but it could be it could be his father.
Yeah, I mainly perceived it just from what I quickly glanced, and the episode is like, what if Hela found the 10 rings? So I guess I more just assumed it would be more Win Wu, but it depends on if it's before or after Odin imprisons her.
Yeah, because I believe it was actually Odin that they attacked in that episode, but he also had red eyes.
See,
That was
yeah, and I
crazy.
didn't know if that clip was from that episode because there's also another episode that's what if the Avengers assembled in 1602. So I don't even
Oh
know
my
if they
god,
would still use.
we're getting Neil Gaiman 1602 universe
Yeah,
for real. Oh, how did I not notice that? That is phenomenal. Neil
oh yeah,
Gaiman is one of my favorite authors of all time, and he also his comic books are phenomenal. I mean, the guy wrote Sandman. Um, his run on the
oh yeah.
Eternals, his run on the Eternals is iconic. But his Marvel 1602 is such a unique story and take on all these characters. Oh, I just got
Trying to,
goosebumps. I just got goosebumps thinking about that. Getting the
yeah.
1602 universe. Oh, that's
Season two
so
is going to be
awesome.
next level. I'm trying to pull up the list of the episodes here now. So the first episode is going to be what if Nebula joins the Nova Corps.
Okay.
So interesting idea. It depends on how that one shakes out.
Okay, now
We
wait,
saw a
wait.
good
Does something we didn't mention, by the way, and I feel bad for not mentioning this. The band that Kamala Khan has, and then the second band, they're the quantum bands.
yeah, yeah. We didn't even
Yeah,
touch on that one.
Quasar, his quantum bands, and now Miss Marvel has them.
Yeah,
That's a big thing too, and I think that connects them to the Ten Rings. I think there's a connection there in the
yeah.
MCU.
Which I think the Bloodstone is going to tie into that same connection as well. I think artifacts are going to be a big thing for this
Oh
phase as well.
yeah, that could be. Werewolf by Night was so good.
So good.
That was so good. Man Thing is an absolute treasure.
I'm
Okay, so go ahead.
hoping because
Yeah, go ahead.
real quick, I don't know where else Werewolf by Night is going to tie into, so I pray it ties into the Blade movie.
I do too. I do too.
I want to
Um,
see it followed up there.
I hope so because that was so good. It
Hmm.
was so, and I need more Man Thing in my life.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
whole
go ahead with
cast.
the go ahead with the episodes.
Episode 2, What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes? Which that's a lot of what we saw in the trailer was from that episode because it's like the Avengers of the 80s. That's why we saw
Yeah,
T'Chaka, Black Panther's father, and Hank Pym as Ant-Man.
yeah, an interesting one.
Yeah, I think that one's gonna have a lot of good potential, just based on what I saw there, but it definitely looks cool at least. And then episode 3, this is the one that's dropping on Christmas because it's What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas?
Oh, that's gonna be on par with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. I have a feeling.
Oh, I think it just the quick clip that we got in the trailer of him and talking to Darcy Lewis and making a Die Hard reference, love that.
While in the vents, while
Yeah.
climbing through the vents of Avengers Tower, that was so good, so good.
Oh, yeah. Then episode 4 is What If Iron Man crashed into the Grand Master, which that's the Mad Max, like, road scene that we saw in that.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that was one of the visuals from there that really sent me over the top. That one looked epic.
You know what my first thought
Um,
was when I saw that clip, I was like, "Ooh, Avengers Mario Kart."
yeah,
Like that's the first thing that went through my head. I'm like, "That's awesome."
yeah, I can see that would be that epic. Episode 5 is What If Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper?
Okay, so that's kind of a sequel to
Yeah.
the end of her episode because we found out that Steve was actually encased in the suit and held by
Mhm.
Hydra. So yeah, that'll be a sequel episode to last. That's one that ties into last season. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Then episode 6 is the What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602?
Enough said.
And then
Anyway,
episode 7 is What If Hela found the 10 rings?
okay.
Yeah, so that one's gonna be an epic one. This one I'm super excited for. This is episode 8. This is the one that involves the original character that they made from it, where she's from the Mohawk tribe. Uh, I
Oh,
I butchered this name. I believe her name is pronounced, Kahori, but it's what if Kahori reshaped the world?
ooh.
What I know about that one is the Tesseract falls into the hands of a Mohawk tribe, and she's granted the powers from the Tesseract,
So kind of similar to Captain Marvel,
kind of.
but yeah, but like obviously it's going to be different because part of the reason that Carol Danvers has the power she has in the MCU was the fact that yes, she blew up the Tesseract, but then had to get the Kree blood to keep her alive, and that's what kind of shaped who she is. So it would be different for somebody who is 100% human.
Correct. Yeah, so and I
It may
assume
already,
it wouldn't be a sort of explosion, so, yeah, I'm interested
yeah.
to see how they shape that whole thing,
And what's the
but
ninth
I'm
episode?
very last one is what if Strange Supreme intervened? So they're bringing him back as well for the finale.
I think that's going to be similar to the end episode of the first season where they kind of bring it all together.
Mhm.
Because Strange Supreme will be the one to kind of like, and of course there will be multiversal implications,
Yeah.
and we'll see all
So
that. So that'll be cool.
since it's Strange Supreme that they're bringing in, it was kind of like in Avengers of the Multiverse in the finale of the last one. What if Strange Supreme is pulling in more of an Illuminati for the multiverse in this one?
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Because we do see Killmonger at one point in
Hmm.
the trailer, who is currently trapped. Isn't he trapped with the source?
With Zola, yeah,
Yeah, trapped with Zola. So yeah, it'll be
in a
interesting to see
time
what
prism.
it's going to see because he also Strange Supremes, he kind of redeemed himself a little bit at the end of the series, the first season. So to see what
Yeah.
side he's on will be interesting because
Yeah.
the title alone to me says like, oh, he didn't fully learn his lesson.
Right.
So that'll be very interesting. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to 9 days of it. And
Mhm.
and we're gonna take the week off after because Christmas is I think on a Monday this year.
Correct.
So the week after, we're gonna take that week off. So what'll happen is when we come back, it'll be right as it ends. So we'll be able to talk about all of it. So as like I told you before, the door is always open to you. So if you want to come back, please let me know. Um, but also
Oh,
we
I'd
got
be
the map.
excited to come back for that one.
Yeah, for sure. We also got the Madam Web trailer.
Yeah.
Now I've been bitten by Sony so many times,
I was gonna say the same thing.
so I don't want to get excited about it. That being said, it looked good.
Yeah. Um, so because I've been burned so much by Sony, I was confused before the trailer, and I'm still confused after the trailer. Is the best way I can put it.
I
Because
can see
the
that.
concept sounds so cool, but Venom sounded cool, and so did Morbius.
Yeah. Um, I think what's got me like it's got me a little bit hyped up for it is that I did see somebody who came up with a theory that Ezekiel's character, the villain we see, the fact that they're
Mhm.
showing him so much, he's not really the main villain.
I hope
Is that
so.
he's kind of being puppeteered like in the comics where he was puppeteered by Moreland. And I
That's
think
who I
that
wanted.
Moreland will end up because it's supposedly it's supposed to be a trilogy, the Madam Web movies. But like, when we see Dakota Johnson's character, Madam Web. I can't remember her name. I just know her as Madam Web. When we see her get
Same.
saved, when we see her get saved in the beginning of the trailer,
Mhm.
that's Ben Parker.
Right, Adam Scott's
Yeah,
character.
Adam Scott's character is Ben Parker. So like, it's obviously a timeline thing. I think that only a little weird because we get Spider Woman who has worked with Spider Man, so like the age thing is really off
Right, yeah, so the fact that we're
because
doing this in the early 2000s.
we're doing this at a time before Peter Parker's probably even born.
Yeah.
So that's a little weird, but she looked great. All the characters I think looked great. I know that people were saying that the Ezekiel costume looks like crap. A lot of people, oh, it
Looks
looks
like
like
a
something
CW show.
CW show. Yeah, it's like, oh, it looks like a CW show. I'm like, no, like it's also not done. Like it's not like post
Yeah.
production is still going on. They will clean some of this up. Let's calm down about that side of it. Be skeptical because Sony has not earned us not to be skeptical. They haven't earned that
No. No, 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 no.
because while I enjoyed Venom and Venom 2, they're not good movies. And
No.
Morbius is just not a good movie at all. Um, ugh, so bad. That's why
Post-credit
I.
scene alone.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. But that's why I'm worried about like Craven the Hunter. I'm worried about Craven because Craven the Hunter to me is the greatest Spider-Man villain of all time. He's my favorite, and I'm very worried about that movie. It looked great with that trailer we got, but I'm very worried.
Yeah.
Very worried. And I'm worried about this too because you're also relying on characters that not a lot of people know. Like even your
Yeah.
comic book fans, like besides Spider Woman, um, even Madam Web isn't known. Like unless you watch like the animated series or read the comics like faithfully, you don't know who Madam Web is. And
No,
then
not at all.
Dakota Johnson is not what you think of when you think of Madam Web. So it's like there's a lot of reach here for the diehards. So Sony's going to really have to hope that the casual fan comes in, but as we just learned with the Marvels, it's a female-led project and we know how that goes. So I'm worried for the project even if the movie's really good, it's not going to have a huge box office and it could hurt future projects. Oh, excuse me.
Right,
Um
right, yeah. Yeah, so there's just people that are gonna hate it because of toxic masculinity and sexism, which is unfortunate.
yeah.
Um, the other thing about yeah, because you're right, Madam Web's a pretty deep cut and definitely really is a deep dive into the Spider-Verse. But the one thing that worries me with that is it almost puts me in the mind of what DC was doing of rushing into big things too fast. I feel like you could have done a lot more to build out like your pocket of the universe, and then Madam Web would have been a perfect thing to start tying all of that together.
And not to bring up Keonis again, but he tried to say that, oh, I'll be the only one to talk about it. Sony's only making this movie because if they don't make a Spider-Man project every year, they're going to lose the rights back to Marvel. No, that's not why. Spider-Man 3 came out 5 years before Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out. Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out 3 years before Homecoming. That wasn't a Spider-Man project every year. We also haven't since then gotten a Spider-Man project every single year. Like, that's not how this works. Like, as long as they make something within a 15-year window, they keep the rights. And they've done that. That's not what they're doing. What Sony
Right.
is trying to do is follow the Marvel footprint and build their own universe. And a
Which
lot of that's
which is a good idea. Yeah.
yeah, but a lot of that's going to rely on this movie, unfortunately, because I have a feeling it's going to get review bombed. So it better be a masterpiece at this point for them. And then it's also going to rely on Venom 3 redeeming itself and tying in Spider-Man. And I've seen people say, "Oh, we're finally going to get our first look at this version of Spider-Man, no Tom Holland." There's no way because Peter Parker's not even born yet.
No, no. You're way more likely to get some other Spider-Man variant, whether like classic big ones like Spider-Man 2099, Noir. Like it's way more likely you're going to get a different Spider-Man like that. But I don't even think it's going to happen. You have three Spider Women. Like we're getting our fill at that point.
Technically 4 if Madam Web is considered a Spider-Woman because she is kind of the center of that thing. So technically
Correct.
4 of them. I also don't think you need that. I don't really think you need that. As long as you can tie in the lore, that's fine. I don't think you need Spider-Man there. I mean, Spider-Man does need to show up at some point in some of these movies if you're going to connect the universe to Spider-Man. You got to have Spider-Man
Yeah.
show up at some point, but it doesn't need to be this film. So I think that I am skeptically optimistic.
Yeah.
I'll just
Same.
leave it at that. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, but Sony has burned us quite a bit, and they have a lot to work with here. So let's dive into now Loki season 2, because Loki season 2 to me is arguably one of the best things that Marvel has ever put out.
I'd say it's easily the best TV show that they've done.
Oh yeah, by far it's the best TV show. That is what goes without saying, I think, and I think it's up there with
Oh
some of
yeah.
the best stuff they've done. Every single episode, I was just there was no, even like in WandaVision, like episode 5 felt like a filler episode. Episode 4 or 5 of season 1 of Loki felt like a filler episode. You can almost tie every episode 4 or 5 of a series felt like a filler episode. Like there was always that one episode like, all right, you could have done without this. I mean, it's fun, but
Yeah.
what's going on is like there wasn't a single episode in this one. It was 6 tightly done, well written episodes that had me on the edge of my seat every single time, and it was just
Oh yeah.
so good.
Oh yeah.
And
And the only show to actually have a solid finale out of all of them too.
yeah, and not just a solid one, but it's now a cornerstone of the MCU. What
Yeah.
they did with
Yeah.
that, with look, whether you want to say he's the god of stories or not, I think he is, but they've kind of like teetered around that. Um, I actually think it's kind of important for the character to be rebranded as the god of stories from the god of mischief because he's been the god of mischief throughout. They
For
even
so
dropped
long
that
now.
multiple times. They've even dropped that multiple times in both seasons of Loki. So I think it's kind of important for him to, as part of his like, to show he's no longer the god of mischief. He is now the god of stories. He is the god of. I know they don't want to say god of time, and I have also seen that. Oh, look, everything's green now, like the time stone, and Wanda was red, like the reality stone, and like All right. First off, yes, she can warp reality, but her powers come from the Mind Stone,
Yeah.
and they just enhanced her mutant abilities or latent magical abilities because she was never labeled a mutant.
Right. Not yet, but we can get to that soon here, hopefully.
Yeah.
With them having X-Men now. But I mean, you could tie that into like, oh, it's the Ouroboros thing again of just the snake eating its tail. So like, it's a stone feeding another stone. So I could kind of see it, but nothing like that is ever going to be canonized. That's just all going to be fan theory from here on out.
Speaking of Ouroboros, OB, Ki Hong Kwan, my God, I was in my room watching the show that first episode, and he came on screen, and I screamed out loud.
Yeah.
Like it was, and then he just didn't disappoint from start to finish. Just so
No, like
fun, so good.
I was worried we'd only get him for like 2 episodes,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. So him showing up episode one and then staying present, best call they could have made.
Also, I think something in that final season that I've only seen one other person talk about. He writes a new TVA book. Instead of the
Yeah.
orange, it's now yellow. But he picks it up, and then he gets that quizzical look on his face, and then we see a very young Victor Timely again by the window. This could create yet another variant of Kang. Because if he goes and puts that book in the window, it's a new book now. It's not the same book. So it's not the book that would
Mhm.
have led to the Victor Timely we got in the series. It's yet another branch.
Yeah. I perceived that scene of because the new purpose of the TVA is they let the now tree of the multiverse flourish, and now their only job is going and correcting any variants of Kang or He Who Remains. So I kind of saw that since they're aware that Victor Timely is a variant, that they went and corrected that, and now he never got the book in his windowsill, which that's something they could leave open, that they it's a thread they could pick up on later, but that's how I perceived it of, hey, we're this is the job that we're doing now to make sure these variants don't become a threat.
I can see that, but at the same time, without Victor Timely, we don't have a TVA. Because it was Victor Timely that Ouroboros related based all his science on.
Right.
Again, it was that imagery that was very prevalent throughout the whole show, the Ouroboros of the snake eating its own tail. Victor Timely learned everything he learned from that book that was left by Renslayer. But the book was written
Mm.
by Ouroboros because of what he learned from Victor Timely. And so if if the book never gets delivered, OB never writes the book. And so it's like it's a necessary
Right.
variant, and without a variant at all, the TVA never exists in the first. So it's one of those things. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, kind of things with them right now.
Which is always the issue with writing something that's based on time travel. Like, you're always gonna have something like this that doesn't maybe quite line up, because
Yeah,
then it's even the argument of, well, it's a different book now, so the timely influence doesn't maybe quite matter, and we've destroyed the
true.
loom and the sacred timeline, and all of the timelines technically died until Loki touched them and brought them all back to life. So what technically was all rewritten in that process?
Yeah, that's true too. So and that's I think what makes the series so great is because we have all these questions, but we don't necessarily need them answered.
No.
We don't
And I
necessarily
think
need them answered.
we're gonna see Loki later for sure, but I don't think he's gonna be prevalent until Secret Wars.
Yeah, I mean Tom Hiddleston in he did the phase zero interview with my buddy Brandon Davis, and
Love them.
yeah, while he said it's kind of like the end for Loki, he's also said he's not ready to give it up.
Give me 1 second here.
Not a problem. Take care of the family.
Of course.
while he's doing that, if you guys have any questions about Loki season 2 or the Marvels or anything related, please make sure you drop those in here and we'll make sure to answer those for you. Um, but again, very excited for what's to come. Loki season 2 has truly set up some great, great things. So I'm looking forward to that.
3-year-old had a bad dream.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Understood. Um, but yeah, Tom Hiddleston has, they're kind of playing it off like it's like Loki's done. Like he keeps talking about it's been 14 years. He's so happy, et cetera, et cetera. But then he also
Mhm.
stated he doesn't want to give it up.
No. And he even, I can't remember if it was on the Brandon Davis interview or the Tonight Show. He's like, I've said goodbye to this character twice now. I would be foolish to think it is
I
actually
think
at
that
an end.
I think that was the Tonight Show.
Yeah. And like, especially with the phase that we're in with the multiverse, anything's possible. So anybody saying goodbye to a character is up in the air at this point.
Yeah. Now I know that
But yeah,
I know that a lot of people have pointed out to that Google has him listed in Deadpool 3, but Google castings you never pay attention to.
yeah, it's another thing I wouldn't trust. Which wouldn't surprise me if he pops up there. I think it's more likely we would see the TVA other than Loki.
Yeah.
But the thing I thought immediately as soon as he took the throne of this is going to be the main omnipotent like character that we're going to have in Secret Wars. So like instead of the Beyonder, it's more than likely going to be Loki now. He's going to be that heavy hitter, more behind the scenes. And I I feel like Marvel would perceive the Beyonder as too deep of like a comic book cut, and they would kind of like revamp that storyline to a more familiar face. And I think Loki is that outlet.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's just that you don't. Beyonder is such a weird character to pop in out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So
I feel
Loki,
like he would need a lot of explanation. Loki doesn't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Beyonder, it's that's like, and we kind of got the Beyonder a bit in both Benicio del Toro and Jeff Goldblum. Granted, those are brothers of the Beyonder. Like those
Right.
characters are related to the Beyonder. So I guess there's a way to maybe bring them in.
Hmm.
But I mean, like to me, Jeff Goldblum would have been a better Beyonder than Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Um, but it is what it is.
And at this point, if you are going to do Beyonder, pull a Bruce Almighty and make it Morgan Freeman.
Yep. Yep. 1000%.
Oh, yeah.
That would be. Oh god, that would actually be amazing.
Right. Like even with little explanation, just throw Morgan Freeman in Secret Wars for 5 minutes and watch everything explode.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. That. Oh god, that'd be cool. That would be so much fun, actually. Now I kind of
Oh
want
yeah.
it. Now I kind of want it. I kind of want it.
I speaking of stuff like that, I did myself a disservice just thinking about the Fantastic Four casting since it's been in the news. And now the only person I want for the thing is Tim Robinson, which will never actually work out, but him
You
being the
mean
thing would be
you mean
amazing to see.
Tim Robbins?
Tim Robinson,
Tim Robinson.
the comedian from I Think You Should Leave.
Oh, okay. We said Morgan Freeman, and in my mind was Tim Robbins. Um, which I mean, Tim Robbins could do it too.
Oh yeah.
Although, like, you'd have to cast everybody else slightly older because it'd be weird that he was. I met that man. He is gigantic. Uh, he's a very, very tall man. Sweetheart of a dude. Very fun to interview, but very tall man.
Believe
Yeah,
it.
Tim Robinson would actually be cool, but I don't know. Like, I know that Marvel gave us John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness just as kind of a fan service moment.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do. Pedro Pascal like is the current name, and I mean that would be cool.
And at this point, I'm not even going to believe it until we get a trailer and see them,
Yeah,
or
or
Kevin Feige stands up at
yeah,
Comic Con.
or yeah, until or if we get an official release from like Marvel or Disney that says it, or we get a trailer. Other than that, or maybe like we get some behind the scenes shots that get leaked or something, like where I see them in costume and I see them
Yeah,
filming, and then like if there's enough to back it, then maybe. But it's just so hard nowadays with the internet the way it is
it really is.
to believe anything really. But Loki was such an amazing story, and I honestly, the other thing that Loki kind of does in a way is it cleans up the issue with the multiverse a bit.
Yes.
It gives it more structure and more definition, and that was something that was very much needed. And I I had this debate. It was like last year. I had this debate with a lot of people. Oh, Agents of Shield is canon. Spider-Man movies are now canon. Da, da, da. No, everything in the multiverse is part of the multiverse. Fox Universe is now part of the multiverse. You can pull from it. The
Hmm.
Sony Spider-Man stuff is part of the multiverse. You can pull from it. Agents of Shield is part of the multiverse. The Netflix series are part of the multiverse. All that can be pulled from for this multiversal stuff. The only thing that is canon is the stuff on the MCU timeline. Now, if they pull a character and keep them on the timeline, like say they pull Daisy Johnson from Agents of Shield and then make her part of the team and she stays and doesn't go back to her own universe, then she's canon.
Hmm.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are not canon to the MCU. They are part of the multiverse. They are connected, but they are
Yes.
outside. And I think the point of the sacred timeline in the first season was to be like, hey, there's one timeline. There's stuff outside of it, but this is what's a part of this universe.
And then it broke at the end of
Yeah.
that, which led us to No Way Home to make that possible. And then now, yeah, you're right. This restructures everything. So
Yeah.
pulling from all of these other multiverses is going to be way easier than what it used to be.
Yeah, and multiverse connected is not the same as canon.
No.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of people also think head canon equals canon. Oh, the fans pick what's canon. No. No, 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 no. The writers pick what's canon. Because you can play something out in your head all you want, but that's not what's being told on the screen. So let's calm down on that. Let's ease up. Let the writers do their job, especially now that they fought so hard with their strike to get what they are deserving. Let them
Yes.
work, let them cook, and just sit back and enjoy it. I guess at the end of the day, as we wrap up this podcast, that's all we can say. Just sit back and enjoy. Come up with your theories, have your constructive criticisms, but let's not let negativity lead our lives because we're going to
No.
end up costing ourselves something that we've all wanted for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not be toxic, and we can do the constructive criticism, and let's not make demands either, because like that's not going to get us anywhere, and it can put us in a similar situation to Multiverse of Madness, where everybody had all of these demands and all this multiverse stuff they wanted to see. So by the time you actually go see the movie, well, this didn't meet my expectations, but your expectations were way up here for this long list of stuff you wanted to see in the multiverse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tyler, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you doing this. I'm so happy to be your first podcast. That's really awesome. And like I told you, the door is always open. Anytime you want to come back, be it on our Thursday show, or if you happen to be a fan of wrestling and you want to pop in for any of those, be my guest as well. All you gotta do is hit me up and let me know, and I'll send you the link. It's actually gonna be the same link I sent you. So anytime you want to pop in, you just let me know you're coming in and come on in.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, with this being my first one, this was a lot of fun. I'm really honored that you got me, were able to let me do it, especially for an anniversary episode. That's really cool. So yeah, man, I really appreciate it. I would definitely love to come back, and yeah, the what if episodes doesn't sound too bad to
Yeah,
come back,
yeah,
man.
it's gonna be pretty awesome. It's gonna be pretty awesome. All right, everybody, make sure you go follow Theory in the Lab on TikTok. Show him some love. Also, repost his videos. Get them out there because they're good. It's good stuff. It's good quality, positive stuff. I thoroughly enjoy. So that's gonna do it for us. Also, don't forget, do all the social media stuff, like, subscribe, all that fun jazz, and we will see you guys next week.
I went to substances, you went to college. I think it's too late to acknowledge our problems. Heard that you're great, I just wanted to say it ain't change. I still love you, tomorrow's not promised. Oh, by the way, fucking hate all the fame. Got you counting the days when your illness is chronic. Death really changes the way you behave. I'll remember your face when it smiles upon us. Rapper bass, psych major, 666, so we like danger. Tough luck, life waster. If I get to know her, then I might save her. Stars in your eyes, let the moon talk. I can stay a while before I move on. Hoodie sleeves up, let the mask off. Mixed our tears on the asphalt. Damage in my C6, but you get that. So I know you'll understand where my blade at. You're afflicted, where the meds at. Damn girl, let's make big bets at. Fuck them all, they don't got nothing on us. Trying to kill us, baby, think we're fucking on it. Fuck your fucking sickness, lost you in the process. I'ma get it for us like I always promised. Pull me back in with your fucking lies. Kill me slowly, baby, you know I don't fucking mind. You said a million years, guess the stars align. You've been lying, baby, see it in your fucking eyes. All up in your feelings, all about my vocal cords. I just think it's funny, there ain't shit you working towards. Rose up at the morgue, got my